Yeah. So, Peace Region Exposure, another episode. Dan Ball's going to talk to us today about why court orders don't mean a lick. No.
This is Peace Region Exposure with Blake and Rob Brown. I'm your announcer, William. Guests this week include author Pat Ferris, my man Dan Ball, and Young Life lead Bryce Wisekal. And now on with the show. Keep my wife's name out of your f***ing mouth.
Peace Region Exposure, episode 7. You've made it. We're continuing this adventure in the art of conversation, if you will. Of course, we've got segments that you know and love, and some new ones too. Our first one is, of course, another novel minute and another novel idea, but this time it's with local author, Fort St. John and Peace Region man, Pat Ferris. He's got all kinds of novels he's going to throw at us and talk about over our extended conversation. And as well, I have a chat with Dawson Creek Mile Zero's Bryce Wisekal. He's the lead and the executive director of Young Life Dawson Creek, and he talks about rebounding with a nonprofit and a youth nonprofit after a global pandemic. And we've also got a third conversation this week in the hot seat. We've got a fantastic interview, a newsy interview with Chetwynd area resident Dan Ball, and he talks about the inefficiency of Supreme Court of Canada court orders and how they're sometimes very much not enforced. And of course, we've got some of these segments that we've grown to know and love and are part of the fabric of Peace Region Exposure. Blake, what are some of these segments that we've got rolling this episode 7?
We have a fitness minute, Devre and Cameron,
Yep.
and a metal minute with Portman.
And of course, we've got another drink.
Nolen.
That's right. We're going to find, you're going to find out that that's a bit of a paralyzing concoction this time around. And of course, we've got our friends over at MacWood Films, Ryan and Grady. They're going to be having a chat with me. We're going to be talking about underrated films that you should certainly check out. But other than that, Peace Region Exposure, episode 7. Hey-oh!
Good to go. So we got our paralyzer. So we're going to fill our glass up with ice here. Just about to the top. We're going to add some vodka. Add some Kahlua. Then we're going to bring some Coke in there. We're going to bring it up close to the top. And then put a little bit of milk in there. Pop a cherry on top.
Rob Brown here, Peace Region Exposure. We've got Young Life ED, man, big man on campus, gang leader, if you will, Bryce Wisekal. What's Young Life about? What's going on this summer as we have your real first summer out of COVID-19, but what's going on for summer 2023 with the youth group?
So Young Life is a youth group here in Dawson Creek. We're a non-denominational Christian youth group.
They're not a gang.
Not a gang. And though we do have fun as a gang. We even have our YL.
Yeah, and they got colors. They got gang colors for sale.
So this summer we're going to camp on July 10th to July 17th, and we're bringing 21 teenagers with us. 4 volunteer leaders will be coming as well. Our camp is based in Rock Ridge Canyon in Princeton, BC. It's about 14 hours away from Dawson Creek, and we load up all our teenagers and head off to camp for a week of their lives. And so that's what's on the plan right now. A lot of fundraising, a lot of different promotional events that we'll be doing. And so,
well, and I see and some of the crew around town, and obviously you have every second Monday night business. What's that all about as far as connecting with youth and teens in the area?
So on Monday nights, we run a program called Club. And so what Club is controlled chaos or party with purpose. And we get together at 5:19 and go till 7:30, and we feed the kids dinner. We feed them with fun, and then at the end of the night, we feed them with a little bit of gospel. But the whole idea is that they're enjoying themselves, they're getting excited about life, and forgetting about life that's around them. Kids today there's too many choices, there's too many options, there's too many responsibilities, and we just need to remind them that they're kids and that, there's so much life ahead of them to grow up and have fun. So let's focus on having fun right now and discovering who we are.
There we go. Focus on some fun this summer. Young Life, Rob Brown, Bryce Wisekal, Peace Region Xposure. Here we are at Gridiron Fitness with Devre, and we're going to talk about cardio.
Yes, so cardio is a great option for people that are looking to lose a little bit of extra body fat. It's a great tool for that, but it's also great to incorporate into your daily routine for cardiovascular health as well. So you can come to the gym and use any cardio machines as well, or getting outside and going for a little bit of a walk. That is a great way to increase your movement, increase your steps, and help with cardiovascular health. And if you are somebody that is weight training right now, adding a little bit of extra cardio into the end of your routine or before in the morning is a great tool as a fat loss adjunct.
We're going to be talking about fitness tips each segment, each episode, each time you tune in. So join us each week. Hi there, Rob Brown here, and this is Peace Region Xposure. And what Peace Region Xposure is all about is people, places, art, artisans that I find fascinating. I'm crouching down here. Is there any way we can raise the legs on that or something?
I can pick it up.
Over these marches, and they just show up, they just kind of fan out into the group, and they literally ridicule them and annoy them right to the end, and then they disappear. So this guy gets paid to do this. It's anti-supremacist, alt-right, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
But it goes horribly wrong, and he ends up waking up in a hotel room with a dead body beside him of the guy that he was supposed to be ridiculing that's got his cane stuck in his chest. So it looks bad. The cops walk in the door and they got him. So the story
Goes
from there.
What a cold open that was.
Yeah.
Novel idea, episode 3. We've got Northern British Columbia author, writer of many books, Pat Ferris. We just saw in real time how you come up with something out of nothing, but obviously coming up with something out of nothing is what writers, authors, creators of all kinds do. How long have you been doing it? Obviously you've got a couple series on the go, so we'll jump into both of those. But where did you first learn to pick up that pen creatively? Is it something you picked up in school and then just excelled at what we used to call language arts? Or is it something later in life?
It started in high school, in junior high school. I had very supportive teachers at that time. So I kind of realized it's a lot of fun to write. You can express yourself. You can write things that people can read or not read, however it works out. So I kind of got away from that after I left school, but I picked it up about 25 years ago and come up with my first novel in about 2012. And since then, it's the steep learning curve. So I'm up to novel number 11 right now that I'm getting close to finishing. I got a nonfiction that's coming along as well, and another story that's not related to either of my series. This Clown Around, I haven't quite decided for a title for it. I find the titles are the hardest. I usually write the titles
Is that right?
right at the end. I don't
So
waste my time.
Here we go. This is a writing conversation. You don't have a working title that you have for before you get to say Gypsies or Disciples or something else you're working on. You don't have working titles for some of yours, right?
I might, like the Gypsies series, there's 4 of them, so I just call them G4.
G4, yeah.
G4, G3,
G5, G6, yeah, whatever.
I
okay.
don't even...
Until it's time to pulse, and it's like, coming up with Pink Floyd album titles. Do you always pull a phrase or a turn of phrase or a word out of the novel, or do you come up with a umbrella that summarizes the whole business that may not be directly out of the piece at hand?
They tend to be something out of the overall picture looking at it. Like the latest Gypsies one is Gypsies Homecoming. The latest Disciples is his Disciples of Doom, so they're going to be the His Disciples series. And Doom is some mysterious
Temple?
foreboding name. I haven't temple yet.
Okay, no, just
But,
you got Replicate on there. We got all kinds of business.
Oh, Replicate is got an AI
just
part
say,
of it too.
okay,
It's
okay, yeah.
it
Blade
talks
running.
about.
Writers often are, for lack of a better pun, mirrors sometimes to the real world. How does that relate to what Disciples Watch started as, to where it is now, where obviously it did start based, from what I understand, on watching some television and watching some news coverage?
His Disciples Watch was the first in the series, but I never intended to make it as part of a series per se. I just thought it was an interesting novel, so
Yep.
there was crazy things happening. I was watching the Republicans and Democrats going at it in the States.
In 2016?
Yeah, and then the craziness that was going around it, the election, it was before the election, so I didn't really expect it to go down the way it did.
Gotcha.
But it did.
Yep.
But I thought, what if it could? So I picked a person that I thought could possibly win, and then I took it from there and extrapolated that out, saying, so what would the world look like? What would their country look like? What would their ideas of how they want to do things? Who would be? There's always somebody on top. The powerful on the top run the people that are on the bottom. So
yes. Who
would be on the bottom now? Who would be at the top? And took the story from there. And there's a bit of a weirdness to it. Is this I have a bit of a ghostly presence in my stories. So
okay. Yeah.
It has that in there too. And
well, I'm just going to ask you, in 2016, and again, there's many people you could use as the what we'll call the dummy character. It wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, or
no.
It wasn't one of the Olsen twins. It was Donald Trump. Now you've got the perspective of both time and hindsight, because the novel is long finished and you're into many series. How was that first kernel of an idea and what you thought would happen? How did that play out in the real world after you'd finished the novel? And were you close? Did you hit the mark as far as the bullseye of what really went down, or were you much more extreme than what happened? Where were you on that Richter scale of?
It was disturbingly close to
what
actually happened in a lot of cases.
So you've got some stuff of him coming down escalators, and you know what I mean, like the
showing
Simpsons.
Up. I don't have on the Simpsons, but
touching glowing balls.
There's a bunch of weird things because I wrote the story and I talked about what their education system would look like. So I finished the story.
Yeah.
And about half of the things actually weren't very far off what actually took place.
Okay.
So
is that right?
I didn't think about that much, but the person I have that does covers for me is from New York City.
Okay.
So I sent it to her, and she sent a reply. What she does is she reads the stories, and then she comes up with these really awesome covers.
Yeah, this is great. This is going to be tied into the titles here
exactly.
very well. Yeah.
And she's very much a Republican from the States, and she sent a little note with it and said, "This is disturbingly accurate to what actually happened." And she said, she says, "Hope your next book shows some hope for us."
Yeah, okay.
It was kind of a strange thing. It was like,
started
oh
with the Strikes
gosh.
Back, not with the Empire.
Because there were enough in there that really made you wonder.
Right.
Because again, this was written before the election. I was just thinking, what if? I was thinking like Ted Cruz. Any of those guys got in.
Sure,
And particularly the Donald. I mean, the showman, the ringleader. He's
the apprentice.
He's the circus barker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What if these guys actually make it?
Yeah, or characters like them.
Hey, you know what? Each and every one of those gods and goddesses out there means something, okay? Not your or your Bible, you tool. Figure it out, you
Peace Rigid Xposure today. Another episode here with Dan Ball from Chetwynd. He's going to speak to us of how and why court orders don't mean very much. Talk to me, Dan. What's going on? Give us a bit of a history about what's going on with your particular situation here.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Dan Ball. I'm Indigenous Canadian, and I'd like to tell the people what happened, how we lost my wife's father's farm. Joe Van He was a tool push up in the Peace River country here for quite a while. He drilled the deep sour wells in Chetwynd and in Pointed Mountain. So when he died, the lawyer decided that the 3 little Indian kids needed to pay back this money Grandpa Joe gave them. And so he wrote up a release and
Right.
they signed it and they paid back.
Because they didn't know what they were signing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then so they paid. They took their. He said
He took their.
they essentially signed over their inheritance
Yeah.
to pay for the legal fees,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
Yeah.
term, right? But I mean, flash forward. Obviously, okay, they unknowingly or knowingly,
Yep.
whether or not they did sign over the business to the lawyer. But then, come 10 years after Grandpa Joe dies, there is a court order that's in place to
Yep.
say, okay, pay this money out to the
Yeah.
to the 1/6, and that's where we're at as far as it's not being followed.
Yeah, and the court order was granted on the basis that a few of the kids needed money, and
Yeah.
they had requested money from the estate.
Certainly,
So-
and it was theirs anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Plot.
Okay. But so I mean, obviously, then to put this into a timeline, the most current order from Justice Irbe is from 2015, saying
Yep.
pay this out.
Pay this up.
And now we're in 2023, and it's just not being followed because what's the penalty for not following a court order that doesn't have a penalty in the court order?
Nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we found out that the court doesn't enforce court
Right.
orders.
Right. RCMP do, but unless
No.
it says in the court order that the RCMP do, they also won't because it's not a court order. Yeah.
I contacted the RCMP for
Yep.
all 8 different jurisdictions
Yep.
and they all told me
Yeah, unless you have that court order that says, and this is enforceable, and this
Yep.
applies to every court order. It could be
Oh.
custody for children, could be, unless you have that written in there that this is enforceable. If somebody breaks it, what do you do?
Yep.
You go back to court to get another court order, and it's the same enforceability.
And we did that. We hired,
Right.
and they worked at it for a couple of years and did get a court date. And was just
So and just to, to monetize it as far as the three kids that are or the 3 payouts that are
Yep.
missing, how much are those each?
roughly there's 4 missing at 20,000 each, and the other 4 are 5,000 each.
So you're talking about over $100,000.
$103,000.
$103,000. And again, I mean, it's not news to me that it's tough to get court orders enforced, but it's amazing what's the point of the system when you go through all these hoops and you sometimes pay lots of money to get the money and nothing. So where are you at now? What do you do in 2023? Or what do these kids do? I mean, some of these kids are no longer children even. What do they? Yeah, they're all grown.
They've got grandchildren.
Yeah. So what do you do? What do they do? What does anyone do?
So what I have learned is that
Rob Brown, and this is Peace Region Exposure. And what Peace Region Exposure is all about is people, places, things, art, artisans that I find fascinating. Peace Region Exposure. Uncut, undiscovered gems, things that films that maybe you have that are not personal secrets to you, but things that people may not have seen just because they're either B movies, not mainstream, not on DVD or streaming these days.
Yeah, exactly.
What are some of these movies that you think rise to the top as far as things for you?
First thing that pops in my head is Sweet Smell of Success, which is going back quite a few years, from 1957. It stars Burt Lancaster and Tony Curtis, who were pretty big stars at the time, and this movie is pretty different from the roles that they normally did. They play pretty despicable, unlikable characters. Tony Curtis plays a publicist, a press agent, and Burt Lancaster's this very famous publicist, and Tony Curtis wants to be on his newspaper and will do anything, including setting people up for crimes, breaking people up, lying, manipulating, and it's really a comment about media in the 50s. And it's photographed by my favorite cinematographer, James Wong Howe, who also DP'd movies like Seconds and HUD. And the black and white photography here is just fantastic. And also the star of the movie, I think, is the script, because it has a lot of crackling dialogue that is very highly stylized and heightened. But yeah, I think it's just all around a fantastic movie, and anyone who's interested in older films should definitely check it out.
There you go. And I've got one that's about 30 years old, a little bit older than that. Everyone thinks Robert Rodriguez's first jump into celluloid back in the day is El Mariachi. He's got a TV movie called Road Racers that's very much in that American graffiti 50s, early 60s idiom. And it's got David Arquette before he was anybody. It's got Salma Hayek. I believe Bill Sadler shows up playing the sheriff, typical sheriff character. But very what I call, again, grease type world setup. And it starts with a chase, or a drag race, if you will, for lack of a better term, from the 50s. And it's just an excellent movie. Points to everything Robert Rodriguez is going to be doing over the next 35 years with Sin City, to the Spy Kids business, where he can get juvenile and good at it, to all the Desperado business with Antonio and Johnny Depp there in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. To date me, I saw it on television at midnight one night on Showtime, I think, back in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So, great movie. Check it out, though.
I think one of my favorite movies is also, now at this point, a fairly unknown one, which is The Court Jester, starring Danny Kaye, and Glynis Johns, and Angela Lansbury, Basil Rathbone. Just top-notch cast. It's from 1956, and it's a musical with music and lyrics by Sylvia Fine, and it is of the utmost production quality, and it showcases all of the best parts of Danny Kaye's performance, as an actor, as a performer, as a singer, dancer. It is just a tremendous film, and I think I would love to see it make a comeback into mainstream media, if that is at all possible. I know musicals aren't like everybody's jam, but this one is just so good. I would recommend anybody with eyeballs and earballs watch it.
I watched it just recently when you showed me, and I feel like it surpasses even the musical function, just because.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it feels more like a showcase of Danny Kaye's not just musical talents, but like his comedic timing as well. Like, he's just such a great clown, and that's not in a negative sense, but he's a great clown. He has such great physical comedy, slapstick. His timing is just impeccable. It's more than just a musical. It's like this great comedy adventure, basically.
Danny Kaye, Court Jester.
Danny Kaye.
Hans Christian Andersen.
I also love that. I just love Danny Kaye.
I was gonna say.
I'm just throwing that out there. I have seen all of his work.
With the red sky and a lake like glass, I'll gallop for the border with a briefcase full of cash. It's out there somewhere, I'll find it someday. 'Cause it ain't on no map and there's no signs that say Macho Grande. I know a senorita down a dark and dusty road.
Says on your website, sharing Jesus with teens. What the hell is that about?
So, sharing Jesus
No,
with teens.
joking.
This is Peace Ridge in Exposure with Blake and Rob Brown. I'm your announcer, William. Keep my wife's name out of your f***ing mouth.